So, William Ruto has been declared the winner of Kenya's presidential election. He received just over 50% of the vote, less than 2% ahead of his rival, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Ruto is promising a radical economic reform, gender equity, and he's also calling for unity.
I am a very proud Kenyan this evening that the people of Kenya have raised the bar on us who are seeking leadership in our country. Not to sell our ethnicities, but to sell our programs, our manifestos, our agenda, and our plan.
But there is controversy around his win. Shortly before the result was announced, scuffles broke out at the National Tallying Centre in Nairobi. The Election Commission's deputy chairman and 3 other commissioners rejected the results, raising questions about the integrity of the vote. Well, Raila Odinga's supporters, they reacted angrily in his stronghold of Kisumu. They believe the election was stolen. Police fired tear gas to break up the demonstration. Malcolm Webb is live for us in Nairobi. So, Malcolm, we waited and we waited and we waited, and all of a sudden there was chaos in the counting centre, and then Ruto was declared winner.
And absent throughout that process was Raila Odinga himself. William Ruto arrived here. He was attending the announcement of these results. Odinga was nowhere to be seen. His supporters now are angry, not just in Kisumu, that city in western Kenya that you mentioned, but also here in Nairobi, in Kibera and Mathare, 2 of the largest slums where Odinga enjoys quite a lot of strong support. But shortly before those results were announced, Raila Odinga's chief agent marched out of the tally centre here and spoke to the press. Let's hear what he had to say.
We have intelligence and reports that their system was penetrated and hacked, and that some of the IBC officials actually committed electoral offences, and some of them ought to have been arrested if they were not arrested.
Well, it looks like there's going to be serious objections. What's the process for any kind of dispute in this situation?
Well, according to the Constitution, a complainant has 7 days after the announcement of the results to submit a petition to the courts. This is exactly what happened 5 years ago following the last election. Raila Odinga at that time was leading the opposition. His coalition submitted a petition, and the Supreme Court ruled that the election had in fact had major irregularities. It annulled the result and ordered a rerun. That took place a couple of months later, and Raila's coalition didn't compete in it because they said those irregularities were never fixed. So now the Raila Odinga's Azimio coalition's got 7 days to file a petition, and if it does so, then the Supreme Court has 14 days to reply. So we'll find out at that stage, in the case that there is a court hearing, if these results are indeed going to be upheld or not, if William Ruto is going to be the next president of Kenya, or if, like last time, the Supreme Court will order a rerun.
All right, Malcolm, thanks for that. Malcolm Webb there in Nairobi. We talked about those protests in Kisumu. Harry Matassa was there.
Disbelief quickly turned into anger. This is Raila Odinga's stronghold. People were expecting him to win. When they heard the results that he didn't, they were angry. They were saying things like the people in Nairobi at the tally center are thieves. They want to know what happened to their vote. They're telling Raila Odinga not to accept the results. They're busy picking up sticks and stones. Their way of saying that they plan to be out here as long as possible until they get some answers, until they hear from their leader, Raila Odinga. This part of Kenya, Western Kenya, these people feel they've been marginalized for years. They were hoping that if Odinga had won, maybe their own man could maybe look after their needs. But now they're saying, what is going to happen now? Their candidate, according to the Electoral Commission, has lost this election. They're angry, they're frustrated, and they want to know what the way forward is going to be for Raila Odinga.
Harry Matassa reporting there. Well, Ruto faces major challenges as he takes over the presidency, among them rising inflation, unemployment and record high levels of public debt. Kenya was particularly hard hit by the pandemic because tourists were unable to visit. Both William Ruto and his defeated opponent, Raila Odinga, promised to tackle widespread corruption. But critics say their roles in previous scandal-hit governments cast doubt on those pledges. On top of that, a prolonged drought has increased the risk of people going hungry. Some of the poorest in Kenya can only afford one meal a day. So let's bring in Ngala Chome. He's a senior analyst at Sahan Research. That's a think tank that works on peace and security issues in the Horn of Africa. Joins us now from Nairobi. Ngala, welcome to the show. What is your sense, before we get into the challenges ahead, what is your sense of what might happen next if Odinga refuses to accept the result?
So Raila Odinga has actually not, at the time we're speaking, has not issued any statement, but it is quite likely that he will, he's actually preparing to go to the Supreme Court to challenge the results of this election. We saw that a few minutes before the results were announced, his party agent had refused to sign the required forms. So therefore, what we're really expecting is that the losing candidate, in this case Raila Odinga, will be heading to court pretty soon to challenge the election results.
Of course, everybody fears the violence that we've seen at previous elections, and that's a situation that everybody wants to avoid.
Yes. I've just been, before this interview, I just took a stroll of Kibera slums, which is known in previous elections as one of the hotspots of election violence, but also the sort of a support base for Raila Odinga. The situation, as far as I could tell, did not seem as tense. Of course, anything can change, especially depending on what Raila Odinga does next. But I'm still confident that the kind of levels of violence we've seen in previous elections, especially in 2007, will not be repeated this time around. There will be scuffles, there will be protests, but also the security agencies, I'm sure, are quite prepared to respond and to restore order. The only issue, of course, of concern is when you start, getting reports of killings and due force on the part of the security agencies.
Indeed. Well, assuming Ruto holds on to his win, to what degree do you think he's equipped to tackle the challenges?
It will all boil down to the issues that the petitioner presents to the court. If there were problems with the election as they have put out, it is yet not very clear what exactly the problems were. It is also very instructive to note that 4 of the 7 commissioners of the Electoral Commission have decided to disassociate themselves from the announcement of these results, and that in itself is pretty key. But again, like I said, we also do not know exactly why they've decided to do that, and I think all these matters will then become a subject of the very likely presidential petition.
It was an incredibly close-run thing, whatever happens. Probably not helped by a lower voter turnout compared to the last election.
Yes, the voter turnout was about 10% less than 2017, which wasn't expected. But given what has happened in the last 5 years, a rising cost of living, people growing more apathetic, people had come out of a sort of post-pandemic situation. That will explain the low voter turnout, but also the sort of shifting political alliances as well. I think it's an indication that Kenyans are also becoming a little bit tired of this sort of constantly changing political dynamics in the country, and it will also partly, I think, explain why in these elections actually there might be lower levels of violence, because for the last 1 week, what most people were asking is for this process to be concluded so that they can go back to their regular lives. This is something important to note as well.
All right, well, we'll see how the coming days pan out. And Ngala Chome, appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.